And we are live here with Trevor Chin from the Epiphany Church in Baltimore, Maryland. And Trevor, I wanted you to know straight up that one of your main men here is making comments already. He sent this ahead of time, and he wanted you to know that that you are the legend. So it's now captured on video. You can use that for what you want.
Hey, I'm sitting with the legend right now. That's what I'm doing. That's what's up,
thanks.
Joe?
Thanks, man. Hey, let's just jump in with a little bit of bio and background, and tell people who you are, what you're doing.
It's a great question. Married to my wife Melissa, have 2 kids. So if you hear some heavy footsteps in a second, that will be them. But Zoe, who will be 5 next month, and a 3-year-old son. So Trevor Jr. So I am the executive pastor and co-founder of Epiphany Church in Baltimore, Maryland, along with who you had on here last week, or I don't know what today is, but over the week or so with Charlie Mitchell. Man, really just trying to make change, gospel presence, serve the city, love our neighbors. But yeah, a little bit of everything. I try to do a little bit of everything. That's kind of the short end of it.
So from Charlie's point of view, at least when he was on, he made a comment, so maybe something that you have said in the past. He said that Charlie lives in the clouds and you walk on the street. Tell us about that.
I already knew you. I already knew you were going there. So that's kind of phrase. That's kind of a phrase that we kind of stole from another YouTuber. But a Clouds and Dirt, and there's I think there's two parts of not just church planting but leadership in general. There's a high level of visionary leadership that you need, that can see 5, 7, 10 years down the line. And I think that high level of visionary leadership is essential, and especially if we're talking about people's lives and care for the city. But there's also a piece of effectiveness and trigger pulling. That's what I coin it. But pulling the trigger on things that need to be done right this second, and what needs to be done now. And I think oftentimes with leadership, leaders have to kind of fluctuate between the highs and lows and getting things done, as well as being at a high visionary perspective. And that's necessary. There's a level of necessity in that, but also I've realized that, man, if you come down to the dirt for too long, then we lose that vision. And if you stay in the vision too long, then we lose some more effectiveness. So I'm like, listen, our thing has been, since we've been in Baltimore, like divide and conquer. And he lives well up there, and I live well down here, and not an up and down, but you know what I mean. I love pulling triggers. I love getting things done. I love, doing too much. Listen, I'd rather be slowed down than be told to speed up. So
there you go. Yeah, that's good. Well, just for the sake of context, everybody that's watching this or will watch it later on probably needs a little bit of context for you and I. So tell everybody how we met.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you went there. So I was in a cohort through Lancaster Bible College in Capital Seminary, and the cohort was taking place at Spanish River Church down in Boca Raton, Florida, and Dr. E was one of my professors. Now, listen, I will say that I'm glad that so there was 2 portions of the cohort that there's an online section and then an in-person section. I'll say I'm very glad that I met him in person first, because online, that's a different monster. Now listen, Dr. E is one of the most relational, wisdom having, like he's like everybody's uncle. Like that's who he is. He's thought about a lot, processed a lot, read a lot, and but online he gonna push you. So that's kind of the context. But man, I do have to tell you, and I didn't say this before, but I'll say it now, like your class honestly changed my perspective, changed my life. You know what? And I know it was a year ago, but it's on my desk right now.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's great.
It's on my desk right this second, because I always kind of refer to that as a place to process, as a place to simplify, as a place to create spaces in my life. So so grateful for you, but yeah, one of the greatest professors, but he gonna push you. He going 550 words, Doc.
Well, thanks, man. Hey, I wanted everybody to know something else about that book and about you and about the class. I want you to tell them about Big Daddy and Little Daddy, about what your kids call you now. After you lost all that weight.
Oh, so thank you. So one of the portions in the book was actually one of the quotes is, if you don't make time to exercise, you have to make time to be sick. And that messed me up. I still am a husky fellow, but I was a huskier fellow at the time of Dr. E's class. But right after that, that quote specifically, it challenged me. And man, I got on a hard diet and I started exercising and lost 35, 40 pounds, something around there. Now Corona has changed things just a little bit for me, but I was able to lose a lot of weight, and my kids noticed it so much so that that Big Daddy is now Little Daddy. And that
just killed me, man. When I heard about that was just so great. I loved it. Well, since we're talking about the book and since we're talking about simplicity and all the rest of that kind of stuff, you've developed something new I saw the other day, and I wanted to make sure that we talked about this because I think it could blow up other people's thinking about maybe a different direction, a way to go in life. So why don't you talk about this new normal and the kind of outline that you produced here that might be helpful to folks?
So I realized that so when the shutdown started around mid March, I was kind of going through kind of an emotional roller coaster. It was, every day was different. Some days were great, some days were terrible, some days were blah. And I was really relying on seeing. I watched every time the president went live, every time the governor went live, every time the mayor of Baltimore went live, I was on there. I was watching. All right, what's going to happen now? What's going to happen now? And I realized that I was relying on and allowing other leaders to lead my life and to lead my family's life, to dictate my emotions. And I said, listen, one of the beautiful things, and this even goes with the clouds and dirt comment, like one of the things about leadership, of that visionary leadership piece, is being able to not wait for a path to be created, but to be able to establish a new one, and to be able to see down the line of what things could be and potentially what would and what could happen, and devise and establish a plan from there. So I have it here, but it was kind of I did like a 30-day challenge for myself to I call it the new normal worksheet. And there was 5 spaces that I realized that, because my life was just all muddy. My kids are home, daughter doing homeschool, my wife teaches piano lessons, but all that shifted to be online. So trying to kind of help her navigate through that. Lunchtime. I didn't realize how much these kids eat. But all of the, it was extremely muddy. So there was 5 kind of categories that I looked through, and the first one was creating a space. And again, the book even talks about having spaces for certain things to kind of help you process and help you think, but creating a space that you do different things in. So right now I'm in my basement. This is the only place that I do work at. This is the only place, sitting right here at this desk. The cameras stay set up. Like I'm not setting it up and tearing it down. The living room is the space for that family and I, that we watch movies and hang out, but we're not We're not doing anything else in that room. I created the kids' small closet playroom that just got reorganized for my daughter to be able to do her work in, so she can be able to be in a space. But there was questions that I have: where will I do my work? Where will I relax? And where will I have devotion time at? The other one is quiet time, and especially now with this uptick of time on screens, I realized that I need to give myself breaks, mental breaks. I had to give my eyes and my brain breaks of spaces of time where I can just shut it out. So I have 4 intentional 15-minute increments throughout the day that there's no no music, no sound. I got them over here. I have little eye patches, and I cover my black eye patches, and I cover my eyes up. But the questions that I ask for myself is: what time in the morning, afternoon, and the evening? Where will I go, or like what space will I go to for this? And you can help me land the plane whenever you're ready. But how will I ensure that my quiet time won't be interrupted? So those are the kind of the categories the questions that I ask myself to be able to preserve that quiet time. And I'll go through the last 3 very quickly. But digital life. I read an article talking about how exhausting Zoom can be.
Yeah.
And one of the quotes was something like, imagine going to the bar with your friends, meeting your parents there, saying hello to your aunt while engaging in conversation with your teachers, or something like that. Because everything that we do now just kind of moved to one singular platform. And I was like, no, I'm gonna work where I need to work at. I'm gonna have fun where I need to have fun at. I'm not gonna be on Zoom with my mom. I'm not gonna be on Zoom checking in with friends. I'm not doing it. I'm different spaces for different things to kind of help your brain kind of get to a space and process those things. A family goal. The last 2 is a family goal. What space will be used for family? What time daily will this time be? And really kind of small goals that my family and I can kind of do together. Family time, whether we go for a walk, but really, I mean, now that we have the opportunity to forced opportunity to be able to spend intentional, clear time together. And then a personal goal. What can I do physically? Processing and thinking through what you already do well. And honing in on that gift. I think oftentimes, especially in times like this, you'll read articles. It's like, hey, you have time to, now you can start a business, or now you can start a website, now you can do all of these different things, and you kind of get emotionally bombarded. Like, all right, well, I guess I have to do this. I got to start a business. And I'm saying I don't think that's realistic. What do you already do well? And what steps can you take to enhance that thing, do that thing better?
You used the I word a moment ago. The word is intentional, and every single one of us makes an intentional choice, whatever the choice may be. But really, and maybe you could comment on this for me. It honestly sounds a lot like biblical wisdom or discipline. That is that we all have a certain world within which we live, and then we all make decisions about this. And often our decisions aren't between good and bad. Our decisions honestly are between good and good. And so we have to make wise decisions based upon a discipline that we know for ourselves, for our own lives. Talk through some of that, perhaps, and maybe the concept of discipline for everybody.
Yeah, I like the question. The comedy said that the decision oftentimes is between good and good, because it's not bad if I sleep in today. You know, if I sleep until 12 o'clock, it's not bad. It's rest. That's a good thing. But it's also good if I wake up at 6 and utilize that 6 hours to be able to exercise, spend time in devotion, to read, to process, to create these spaces, to do whatever the case may be. But the discipline piece is that's the first battle. And but that's why, and that's part of the reason why I created the worksheet, because I needed to be held accountable to discipline. I needed I needed to be able to write this chart out, give it to my wife, and for me to have a level of accountability for this discipline, for these disciplines that I'm trying to push on myself. And listen, hey, after you get up, same thing with losing weight. After you get over that first hump, once it becomes a rhythm, because I think that that's the battle. It's making these disciplines rhythms, and once you can make them a rhythm of life, hey, there's no turning back. There's no turning back. Dr. E. Walker, you woke up at 4 o'clock this morning. I know it. He's read a book today already. Well, listen, because it's a rhythm. It's it's a discipline, yes, but it's kind of just this thing that's already in his life, is a part of his life, is how he processes, is how he thinks. So
it's really an important idea to bring up that concept of rhythm, and it's one of my favorite words when we have these kinds of discussions. And it reminds me of another word that is similar to it. The word is cadence. And so kind of like you're listening to music, or you're watching a football game and you're listening to the cadence, the quarterback call, whatever the case, there is that rhythmic emphasis that goes along with it that makes a difference in how we actually produce and perform in life.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I'll call it a vibe, but like that, yeah. Like 90s and early 2000s neo soul R&B. If like for my Philly folk, this is for my Philly folk, but there was a groove that you can kind of get caught and captured in, that would just kind of keep you in a place. And 25 minutes. I mean, we used to do, and I'm going somewhere with this, but we used to do something called Sheds. And that's when a bunch of musicians just get together, and then they'll just play essentially like a long song. But it'll all be captured in a groove or a vibe or a cadence that can kind of just continue to go on, because the vibe and the rhythm is established and is steady, and because it's set, it's part of the culture essentially. It allows that song to be able to go on. So I mean, it's that same cadence that if you can kind of get yourself in that groove, in that cadence, in that vibe, of this is just what life is. But that's where, when I say new normal, like that's where I'm thinking of what is life going to look like moving forward? What is culture going to say about large gatherings? What's the emotional toll? What's the psychological toll, the sociological toll? So those are some of the things that I try to process first, and kind of build from there.
It's a big thought process to go through all of this. And I think it's important for everybody to understand that as leaders, we spend a lot of time stewarding what we have. So you're stewarding time, and that's really important. I would say that's most important more than anything else as a leader. But let's take that to the next level and talk about stewarding finances, and talk for a minute about the cost. We're talking about the cost of time and so on for the new normal. But let's just talk about cost. I mean, let's talk about bottom line green.
Yeah.
How much is this costing us to reinvent, shall we say, how we go about interacting with folks?
How much financially is it going to cost us to interact?
Yeah, and I'm not interested in detail. I want to talk that through with everybody so they get the understanding that, this isn't just, some small game we're playing here. We're actually contributing quite a bit to it.
Yeah. So I'm very glad you said that you brought that up, because it's going to be very essential for leaders of any magnitude to do better with this. For leaders to be able to process their thoughts, to be able to connect with people online, on different platforms such as this, which is super great, by the way. Thanks for the plug. I started using it this week. But there's stuff isn't cheap, and stuff isn't easy. We're talking about $1,000 camera. Now there's smaller things that you can do. One of the arguments that I always make, that if you're not doing anything, you use an iPhone and a ring light at the end of the day. You got to start doing something. But from a leadership space, I think that online, I mean, is loud and cluttered right now. And how can you differentiate? How can you set yourself apart? Biggie has a line says, separating the weak from the obsolete. But how can you separate the yourself, your business, your church, your organization from being one that is going to thrive in this new world, or simply kind of just survive until your company kind of folds. And I don't want to sound so dark about that, but I mean, we're talking expensive microphones. The one thing that slept on most, and this is even for like in a church and stuff like that. People talk about like keyboards being expensive or drums being expensive, and all these big things that you can see, but chords are very expensive. I mean, I have one chord. I mean, I have $200 worth of chords that I'm looking at just to set this thing up right here. So it's definitely a toll. There's definitely financial cost there. But in terms of stewarding the finances, a lot of the stuff that you were doing externally, a lot of the stuff that you were focused on large gathering space, a lot of the stuff that you were trying to make. Like, hey, I don't have a clothing budget anymore. Hey, I wear what I got. Hey, and listen, I got shorts on right now. So, but in terms of the stewardship piece of that is really kind of sitting down, looking at those finances, looking at where you were spending money at, and seeing all of the external stuff, nixing all of that, and really because it's not that you're saving that, but to be able to survive in this new normal, that you're going to need to reallocate that same amount of energy, that same amount of funds into online and digital platforms. It
strikes me to say this because I think it's important for everybody to hear that the scriptures establish for us principles of life. That is, it does not give us a detail about what kind of car I need to buy, or who specifically I'm supposed to marry, or whoever, whatever, those big kinds of questions that people might have. The scripture is very clear about, let's take Genesis 2:15, where the responsibility is to protect that which we've been given and to provide from that which we've been given. Both things are being true at the same time. So when we talk about stewardship and we're spending money, that's part of the stewardship, because we're trying to produce from that which has been given to us.
Yeah. That's a great word. And I think that I'll speak from even from a church perspective. Churches need funds and need money to survive, but not just survive, not just money that we're called to protect, like you said, but to utilize those resources for the sake of the gospel and for the sake of reaching others. And what are the I mean, that's why Charlie and I, when we do our staff meetings, those can be kind of boring or whatever things, but times of connecting, of like, how can we best utilize God's money? How can we best utilize these resources? Because essentially, like, we're looking for return on investment. If you give $100, I mean, not that I want to bring back a saved soul. That's not what I'm saying. But like, I want you to be able to see, like, listen, they are, like, if you give $100, I want you to be able to see that they are doing everything that they possibly can to train up leaders, to develop people, to preach the gospel, to impact the city, to serve the city, to make a transformation in the world, which is one of our values. But that's huge.
One of the things I just want to share the story with you quickly, because I think it's important, and I know he probably won't share it, so you should to folks. But the other day when we had Charlie on, we talked about Pray 100. Well, basically, my mom took that. Okay, my mom, 85, in Denver. She has her own group, her own cadre of folk that she disciples and has Bible study with, and so on. And she's always sending them my stuff. So she said, can I send them, Charlie's emphasis? I said, sure, Mom. Great. So here's the story. She writes to me today, just an hour ago, and I told her who was going to be on and how our connections and so on. And she said, "Oh, and tell Charlie that one of the guys that's in my group is now doing Pray 100." And she said, and I quote, "He feels so much joy now because he feels like he can contribute." So here's a guy who's 80 plus, and how can he contribute? He struggled with that. But this venue right here, I mean, you and me right now, I mean, this is going to send out signals to other people going, wow, maybe we can go this direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. First off, that's super encouraging. Have you shared that with him yet?
I did. Yeah.
Oh man. I'm because, and I'll say this, and I love him, and I'll use my words to continue to protect him. But he was frustrated, because Charlie loves to get his hands dirty. You know what I mean? He loves to be active. Whatever needs to be done. Him and I were still setting up alongside of our team when we were setting up. You know what I mean? But to not to reiterate what he already communicated, but knowing that he can have a large impact and a great impact by using what he already has, which is his phone and prayer. Man, it's been an encouragement for me. For my wife did it. Now she walked with the kids, so she only got about 30, 35, 40 miles. She didn't get the full 100 because you know them those little legs move slow. But to your point, I was talking to, I don't remember who I was talking to. I don't know what today is, but one thing that they said was that we need to start in terms of the financial piece. We need to start investing in fingerprints and not footprints. And in other words, where before we would invest all of this time, energy, resources, money to create environments for people to be in and to walk into, now we need to create environments internally that we can still be able to engage with people. But this format has a much wider and a much greater a landing zone for to be able to connect with people and interact with people across the country. While the services that we were having, the room can only fit 180 people. So yeah.
Well, let me just as you suggested earlier, try to land this plane. We've got a couple minutes left, and I wanted to kind of make a few important points about you and the work that you're doing. I've been watching some of the stuff that you've done here on social media and some of the different directions that you're going with the media that you're choosing to do and the conversations you're having and so on. And I'm going to say this about you too. What you are doing, Trevor, is going to make a difference in so many lives that you'll never know about. Wow. And it's all because of the digitization of what we're doing right now. And it's the thing that God's given us to do. And so I just want to praise you about that and thank you so much for, stepping out and moving in a direction that I think we all need to go.
I appreciate that. See, I told you he everybody's uncle, man. He's listen, he's the uncle. Oh man, Uncle Dr. E, man. I appreciate that, man. I really do. The last thing I'll say, I was talking to a pastor yesterday, and I told him, I said I shared the new normal worksheet, but I created it for me, and instead of shifting what we're doing, I'm saying share the process. People are struggling right now. People are frustrated. I know that I wasn't the only person in that awkward holding pattern when this whole thing started, and frustrated and nervous and anxious about what tomorrow will bring. So instead of trying to process internally, and so you can kind of get yourself strong before you share the process, because I need to see it.
There you go. Trevor Chin, Epiphany Church, Baltimore, Maryland. Man, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you. We'll talk again soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye for now.
Peace.